Hello and welcome to Banter and Chill with your host, Inni Baby.
So, here we are again with me talking and you listening to the sound of my voice. I just feel like there's something there, there's something you're not telling me, there's something that keeps bringing you back, and one day you're going to confess. Anyways, before I dive into this episode, I would really like to say that I am actually proud of myself and I'm actually grateful to you all for listening, because at the time of this recording, I already had like 94 plays on my podcast with the first couple of episodes I put out, and it's a win in my books. Considering that it was, at the time I'm recording this, the first set of episodes had not been out for up to 5 days, and I already gathered like 90 something plays. It's really a big win for me. So that has made me bold. That has gingered me to, record the next episode, to give more dry jokes, and just generally come back in your ear like I'm doing now. Today, we're going to talk about difficult conversations and how to basically navigate these difficult conversations and talk your shit at the end of the day. Let's get into it. I don't know if you've heard of that myth about ostriches, that if there's any sign of danger, they dig a hole basically and bury their head in the sand so they do not see what is happening around them. Now, for the ostrich, that is a myth. But for you, it's actually true. Because some people, yes, all shade intended, some people have that kind of reaction when it comes to having difficult conversations, or when it comes to resolving conflict, or when it comes to hashing out confrontations, basically having to confront somebody. And so basically that's what we're going to talk about today. Why should you have difficult conversations? When should you have difficult conversations? Who can have difficult conversations? That's an important one. How do you navigate these difficult conversations? Well, difficult conversations are basically, as the name implies, any conversation that is difficult, basically, please don't stress me, that's the definition. Any conversation that is difficult, any conversation that has to bring you out of your comfort zone in terms of vulnerability, in terms of your emotions, in terms of speaking up, that is a difficult conversation. Any conversation that you're hiding from, like the proverbial or mythical ostrich that's always burying its head, is a difficult conversation. People avoid difficult conversations because they don't want to make matters worse, or they fear that they'll be attacked, or they are scared of being mean or haughty, or for being mean. This is for people who actually maybe value the relationship they're in, so they don't want to hurt the other person's feelings. So there's also the fear of being vulnerable, and there's the fear of having to explain yourself consistently. This is not really a fear, this is more like a concern, especially for people who have tried having the difficult conversations in the past, but it's like you always have to repeat yourself to the person all the time. You get tired eventually, and you're done. You do not want to have the conversation anymore. But thing is, you should still have these difficult conversations. Why? Avoiding these conversations can lead to increased internal distress for you. You ignore it or you refuse to accept it and talk about it does not mean it will disappear, or does not mean it will go away. It's still there, and bottling it up will not change anything. Rather, it will just cause problems for you, because you're not happy, you're not satisfied, you're restless in your spirit. Inside you, everything is not calm, and instead of talking, instead of letting it out, you're swallowing it and causing yourself distress, because you're always upset at the person, or you just can't deal with the person as you should, because you have pent up frustration towards the person. Now the thing is, pent up frustration can also lead to emotional outbursts. You find that you're always angry or upset at the person, or you're even transferring the aggression to other people, or you just wake up one morning and everything is just upsetting you, start crying. It's because you did not address it, and tiny droplets of water make up an ocean. So now your ocean is now fully formed, and it is now breaking down dams. So basically, whatever you don't talk about will come back to haunt you, because it's going to get like what's the word? Okay, when they say this is the final straw that will break the camel's back, you don't know how many straws your back can take until one will finally be the tiny thing that will tip it over, and you find yourself, raging or lashing out in any form. And considering that it's good to learn to keep your emotions in check, having random emotional outbursts is not something that you really want for yourself. Also, avoiding the conversation can worsen your relationship with the person, because over time resentment will grow, and if resentment grows, there will definitely be a fence between you and the person, like a whole wall of resentment between you and that person. There are some advantages to having difficult conversations as well. Difficult conversations help communicate value, because you could have chosen to, talk about the person behind their back, or talk to someone else about it, or just send a text, or, not do anything about it. But the fact that you chose to instead talk to them, it kind of communicates a sense of, I actually care about what is going on to the person. It kind of tells the person that you care about what is happening, because generally people like to know that you hold them in high esteem or high regards, and basically, talking kind of communicates that to whoever you're talking with. Then these conversations can also reveal blind spots. Now, you may think you're perfect, although nobody's really perfect. You may think you're doing your best, you're doing good by people, until you sit down with them and have a chat, and then they'll be the ones to help point out parts of, your character, or parts of your behavior, or, scenarios where you're actually the drama. You're the drama. You're the one actually causing the problems, or you start seeing how it was your action that led to their own reaction. There's this thing I read somewhere, I think it was a tweet, that some of you think you're such good partners because you don't cheat, or basically because you don't cheat. Meanwhile, you're a narcissist, you gaslight a lot, your communication skills 0, your empathy -10/3. So you get the point I'm trying to make. Sometimes you think, okay, because you're looking at it from one point of view, you're doing okay, but then you sit down with someone and you realize that you're not doing okay according to the person's books, or right by the person's books, you're far from doing okay. Because some people will be like, oh my goodness, I'm good to him, I cook, I clean, and I don't got the ring yet. But if you hear DJ Mike Mule, you start hearing leg work as if you're trying to win Techno Camon in Computer Village. That could be the only problem. Or your baby's always telling you, oh my goodness, I want flowers, but you insist on getting her chocolates all the time. You're the drama. Fix up. Only communication will let you know where you're the one who is contributing to the problem. Now, having these conversations can also help increase trust and respect. You show people you respect them enough by coming to them directly to talk. And because of that, they tend to come back to you. Even when you want to talk about something random, something else unrelated to whatever issue you guys had to hatch out, they will still come back to you, because there's this kind of trust they have. Being able to successfully navigate a difficult conversation is actually a very, very decent skill to have. And if you can do that, people will tend to come to you more often to make sense of, what they're feeling, what they're thinking, blah, blah. Anyways, the last thing I want to add is that these conversations also bring clarity. Difficult conversations tend to bring clarity. And it's not the clarity that people in modern day relationships do, that they'll say, oh my goodness, are you around? Come over, let's talk for closure. And then after a demeaning 2 minutes and 55 seconds of quote-unquote closure, all you have at the end of the day is post-nut clarity. That's not the kind of clarity I'm talking about. Have some shame and close your yash. Okay, the clarity I'm talking about is understanding where you guys are at, understanding what brought you guys there, and knowing where you're going to go from there. Now, the only way you can get there is having a conversation with words. to help navigate conflict and reach common ground and understand each other's perspective better. So now we're down to the last part of this episode where we'll actually enter how to have these difficult conversations. If you're here to this point, I'm going to say it again. Thank you, but don't go away just yet. This is the interesting and juicy part. So when you want to have a difficult conversation with somebody, you have to first play the scenario out in your head, consider the other person's point of view. Now, as you consider it in your head, when you hear them talk, also open your mind to understanding their point of view. You're not the only person in the conversation, so your word is not yay and amen, or your experience, your opinions, how your feelings is not the sum total of everything that you guys are going to talk about. So you have to open your mind up to the possibility of the other person's perspective. Secondly, have an end goal in mind, but be flexible. So before you go to have this difficult conversation, know that, okay, this is what I want to achieve at the end of the day, but understand that you should be a bit flexible because you guys are two, and can two work together if they're not in agreement? No. So definitely both of you have to find common ground. It might not be as close to your end goal as you want, but if it's pretty close, you can start from there. Sometimes learn to give E for effort. Like all these, let me bash relationship people again. You go to tell your boyfriend that, oh, you're done, you want to break up. At the end of the day, you find out that, okay, you're now friends with benefits with your ex. Baby steps. At least you managed to break up. It's just that now you're not in another uncomfortable situation. But hey, you're making progress. I'm not going to judge you. Then you need to work on your listening skills as well. Let the person speak and listen to understand. Most times when we have things to talk about, we tend to, want to get everything out. So you don't let the other person speak most times. So let the next person talk. And as you let them talk, listen carefully to understand what they're saying. Don't listen to argue or listen to justify. Listen to understand where they're coming from. Then also learn to take care of yourself as much as you need to when you're navigating difficult conversations, because they can be emotionally draining. So if you need to pause, if you need to you can continue another day, you cannot continue anymore on that day, that's fine. If you need things around you to give you comfort like food or music, have that around you as well. But take care of yourself while you're doing it so you do not burn out emotionally or end up attracting a dark cloud over your head and emotions for the next couple of days. Then this is something I do personally, but I would recommend that other people try it as well. You can make a note of everything you need to address. So that way, even if you get derailed or sidetracked, you have your pointer, so you can always go back to the ones that you've not dealt with yet. Then also, speaking of being derailed or sidetracked, always prepare for that, because there are 4 things that can derail a difficult conversation. The first is denial. When the person rejects what you're putting forward. So you're saying, oh, you did this to help me. And the person's like, no, I did not. You don't know what you're saying. I did not do it. Maybe you're telling the truth, but the person making you feel like, okay, what you're saying is wrong, or you're the one who is lying. So people can reject the conversation or whatever you're putting forward. So learn to accept it and prepare for it. There's deflection as well. Some people, instead of having a conversation, they will change the subject. Some people are intentionally obtuse, and I'm sorry to use that word, but that's actually the best way to put it. So instead of saying, oh, I'm not ready to have this conversation now, I'm not in the mind space to have this conversation, they instead try to avoid it or change the conversation. So you're trying to have a serious conversation, somebody is probably bringing in jokes or trying as much as possible. Oh my goodness, I'm describing myself. Jesus, therapy. Anyways, deflection is another way whoever you're talking with can try to derail the conversation. The next is disruption. So the person can interrupt by shouting, swearing, crying, cursing, just generally doing stuff that will end up taking the conversation from where it was at to where it should not be. And if that happens, if you guys need to continue another day, it's cool. Just as much as possible, avoid anything that's going to get physical with the person, and just let the person do their thing. Especially in the case where there's shouting, it's of no use shouting back. So just let the person finish. You can continue another day, but make sure that points are made whenever you do get to talk. The fourth and final way, not necessarily final, but the last way I have here that people can try to derail difficult conversations you're trying to have with them is dumping. Dumping happens where you're trying to have a conversation, but they change it into a blame game. So I come and I'm like, okay, this is what you've done to hurt me, or this is how I feel about what you've done. And next thing you know, the person is reminding you of all the 1001 times you've done the same thing, or all the times you did something to hurt them and they did not do or say anything hurtful to you. Basically, just try to make you feel guilty, when all you wanted to do was have a conversation to, talk about whatever it is both of you are going through. And next thing you know, you're suddenly the one at fault with a lot to apologize for. So, the last and final way to navigate a difficult conversation is to brainstorm solutions together. Most people leave out that part. So I understand that you've told me that I did this to upset you. Where do we go from here? Carry the person along. Like, let me use relationship people again. The way I'm bashing them, you just know that my own love life is in shambles. But hey, let's not turn tables. Anyway, when you are done talking with the person, you guys are done having the conversation, decide on where you're going from here together. People in relationships, for example, you want to break up with this person. You guys have had the conversation that, okay, this is what you've been doing, this is what you've been doing, and I don't like it. You leave there, you know in your heart and in your soul that you're done. You're not in it anymore. You do not tell the person. And the person will not be surprised when you start acting up and like, oh, I'm done with you. You never said that, okay, from this point onward, we're done. As much as possible, whatever conclusion comes out of the conversation is one that both of you are fully aware of. Do you understand? And if possible, both of you made that decision together to take this step or that step next. Now, that being said, I think I've covered everything I have to cover on the topic of navigating difficult conversations. This particular episode is already getting to 20 minutes, so I'm going to round up now and leave you alone. If you listened to the whole thing, thank you once again. If you loved it or if you learned a thing or two, please let me know. Don't forget to share the podcast with family, with friends, in group chats. Anywhere you want to share it, please share it. Force people to listen. We endorse violence here in this house, so you can force people to listen. Don't beg them, force them. Anyways, if you're done forcing people to listen, you can also leave reviews and comments. Tell me how you find this particular episode. If any part of it at all, got to you or you learned a thing or two, as I've already said before, let me know. That if there's a difficult conversation you've been holding out on, the moment you end this pod and you're done sharing it, go and have that conversation. Even if you're in the middle of the road, stop right there, call that person, talk your shit, have that conversation. I need to have, a difficult conversation or two that I need to have. And I'm hoping that by the next episode, we'll all be in a better place generally. Yeah, we'll all be in a better place. So, I think that's all I have left to say. Now, I bid you adieu. Bye.